Yo.
Yo, what's up again? This is Old School Law. I am your man, Dantron, in the house, and I have some special guests, some old, some new, some spicy. First and foremost, I'm going to talk about my boy over here, that way, Wolfman.
What's up?
Then we got down below me, D. Thomas from NC. First
Yeah.
time, welcome to the show.
What up? What up? What up?
And then we got over on the side another, like the dessert, is Eric. Problem solved with Eric. Thanks, guys, for being
What
here.
up, guys?
I'm super excited about this. Super excited. So this system is something that is near and dear to my heart. I'm not necessarily a spring chicken, but I remember this was in the prime of my youth, like right when I was young, virile, and full of hair on my head. So, with that being said, Wolf, why don't you tell us what we're talking about today?
Okay. Well, let's see. We are talking about the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. And I think we're all in agreement that that is just absolutely, if not the best system, it's got to be up there in our top three systems of all time. And there it is in all of her glory, in gray and purple. All right. He's holding the NTSC version, the United States Super Nintendo version. All right. The Super Famicom launched in Japan in 1990 to a resounding success over in Japan. And, you know, Nintendo had to have been worried a little bit because if you think about it, they were kind of late coming out in the 16-bit game. I mean, the Genesis was already out. They were already blasting advertisements on TV talking about how cool their system is, their mascot Sonic. And Nintendo was trying to live in their heyday with the Nintendo Entertainment System. So they did eventually come out in August 1991 in the United States. I kind of remember that. I want to say I was maybe a freshman in high school, I think. And I remember how cool it was. I think I was. I don't know. I'm bad at math. But I remember seeing those advertisements on TV. You know, it had the pack-in game Super Mario World, which I don't know. I think one of us are going to be talking about that today, which could be one of the greatest platformers of all time. You know, and if that's your pack-in game, you know, it is a great game to show off the Super Nintendo hardware, as you know. So, Super Nintendo ended up selling, I want to say somewhere in the 20-something million range for the United States and 40 million worldwide. So if we go all the way back to Japan in 1990, 1991 in the United States, I think in the United States, they started to discontinue it in 1999. And Nintendo was already running into problems in the mid 90s because at that point, the PlayStation 1 had already been out. The Sega Saturn had already been out. So you have 32-bit gaming systems that are out. And the Super Nintendo was getting long in the tooth. But what kept the Super Nintendo going is, and what made it a really, I think, a cool system, is companies were able to grow with the times by having separate chips, more advanced chips to kind of keep the hardware alive for a longer period of time. And we'll talk about some of those games that utilize some of those special chipsets. But Super Nintendo, 721 games released in the United States. And we'll talk about a few of them today. I love them all. I mean, even the games that suck, I probably still like for Super Nintendo, but there's so many good ones. And I'm obviously talking way too much. So I'm going to pass it over to the MC, Dan Larson, and he could decide how he wants to divvy up the games for this episode.
I'm just going to touch on really quick. So this system in particular, I saw this over at a friend's house He was on my soccer team. I went over there and he was playing a game, and I was like, "What is that?" And he was like, "Oh man, this is the same friend that showed me the Power Glove for the first time." So his parents were kind of well off, so he was always getting all the cool stuff first. But I just wanted to say that the one of my favorite slogans, and it goes, and I hold it near and dear to my heart today, and I still use it, is "Does what Nintendo don't." So Sega, that was the thing. Genesis said that the Genesis does what Nintendo don't, and I say Nintendo don't play, because anybody that wants to mess with Nintendo and their intellectual properties, they are not gonna let you. Like just don't do it. But anyways, so Eric, what do you think? What do you think about the hardware? What's something that strikes you as something that's nostalgic when it comes to this system and the peripherals or anything that you got?
Something that's nostalgic.
Oh yeah.
I would say, so just talking about the system itself, when I was a kid, I had the regular NES. That was fun. We always used to talk about how video games were better in Japan back in those days. I'm a little kid, and we're always like, yeah, this game is good, but it's better in Japan. And that was always our thing. And we never got the good games here. So when SNES came out, that was like the first time where I got to see, like, that's when I saw Bomberman, and I was like, Bomberman's not like a US thing. And I was like, hey man, maybe this is one of those cool Japanese games. Like this is that. So I started to get introduced to, the Japanese side of things and stuff. And that just opened up an entirely new world for me.
DT.
That's in the system in general. That's what that did.
Mm-hmm. How about you, DT? I see them cartridges up in the background. You got cartridge art hanging up there. I see what's up.
Yeah, man. So, bro, the Super Nintendo, that's a life-changing system for me, because we started off with an Atari, 7800. So we didn't have a Nintendo. We would have to go friends' house and stuff like that. So when my aunt bought us that Super Nintendo, I mean, like Eric was just saying about being a kid, and both of you guys were saying, like, bruh, we kind of like snuck and opened up a little peek in the box, and just to see the little purple shade on the controller, on X and Y. What is so nostalgic from my point of view about that Super Nintendo? You got the L and R buttons on top. There was kind of one of, so it's kind of like they was one of the first to do that. You got, instead of having 2 buttons that you would have on the regular Nintendo, now you got 4 buttons. So you got 4 buttons. You got the L and R up top, like you was mentioning, that nice gray and purple look. And the games, it's so many games I want to talk about. We'll mess around and be talking about this joint for 4-5 hours. I know we ain't got that long, so we gotta try to compact it in. But yeah, just the controller. I remember the first time smelling it out of the box.
I was just smelling it too. I always smell. It smells old.
Is that a brand new Super Nintendo?
No, that's how I keep my stuff though. No,
it's not.
This is the
yellow.
one that I use. Yeah, this is mine that I use all the time. I just keep my stuff clean.
Yeah, that's clean, man.
So that being said, DT, you don't have to worry about being 5 hours worth of one episode on SNES. I had already been talking to the guys. We're gonna probably do 3-4 episodes for SNES. So
it's warranted, bro. That means the Super Nintendo. It has to get,
and they have to get its time.
Series.
Yeah, it has to get its time. I don't want it to be too much of the good games like just being talked about and thrown to the side. Like they need their time, right? So,
yeah.
So anyways, and that being said, since this is the first time that you've been here, why don't you give us your first game that really is something that strikes you when you say Super Nintendo, it hits you, and then give us a little explanation about why.
So many, man. Okay. I would say you mentioned Super Nintendo. You can't say Super Nintendo. God, it's so many. You say we're doing a round robin, right?
Yeah. It's not like a competition.
Okay.
We're all gonna talk about the game.
Yeah.
All right. So in no particular order. All right, let's just fire off. No particular order.
Just give us
Super
one.
Nintendo.
Just give us one to talk about first.
Contra 3: The Alien Wars, man.
Oh, right. Yeah. And
Contra 3: The Contra 3 the Alien Wars. I got a picture of me and my little brother. I was probably about 7, 8. I was probably 8, 9 years old or something like that. And I'm holding Contra 3 the Alien Wars and I'm pointing at it like this. I got that picture. If I remember the next episode, I'm gonna show you that picture. I'm holding Contra 3 and I'm pointing at it like that. Bro, that game, I know Contra was on the Nintendo, but it's just like whenever the Super Nintendo came out, everything from the Nintendo, it became Super Mario, Super Contra 3 the Alien Wars, Super this, Super that. So for us to have that Super Nintendo and to have Contra 3 the Alien Wars, like that was one of the, like we weren't like super rich or anything like that, but we got games. And being that we was able to have like, that was one of the like 4 games we had at like one of the launch, to have Contra 3 the Alien Wars, the graphics, the gameplay. I mean, come on, man. The soundtrack, the bosses, the guns. Come on, man.
And the top down levels.
Yeah, the top down.
Are you guys not fans of Super Contra?
Oh no!
Oh my God!
Dude, of course.
100%. We're fans of it. And you know what? And it was because it was multiplayer too. So that's the big thing. Is I love the 2-player stuff. Contra, I've always loved playing it, and that game in particular, like you said too, you touched on it, that everything went super. It was like taking an already good game and then throwing like 3-dimensional shading and stuff on top of it, and then the added sound and everything, and the colors were so bright and vivid.
Yeah,
I get
and that's
you.
one thing you have to. That's one thing you have to appreciate about the Super Nintendo over the Genesis. I understand what Genesis was doing, and I wish Sega could still be in the fight today for Dreamcast purposes, but that's for another episode. But like you mentioned, the colors, the sound, the controller. Like, you know, just imagine like you playing a game like Street Fighter. You got a low kick, high kick, and I mean, yeah, you got all that stuff. Low punch, medium punch, and high punch. You got all of that. Being that you got, you know, X, Y, B, A, and you got L and R, whereas on Sega they only had 3 buttons and a start or what have you. But yeah, so that's that. I had to fire off that first round, that first game of Contra 3: The Alien Wars.
Dude, that controller too is great. You just touched on it. Like it feels right in your hands because of the rounded edges. You know what I'm saying? When you put it in there, it's not like the old school Nintendo, you know, where it was pointy and you could, you know, it kind of make your hands hurt a little bit.
Right.
But like even today, like we all know here that we play games emulated too and play it on original hardware. I can't play Super Nintendo games without using an actual Super Nintendo controller. I don't care. I can't. I don't like it on the control panel. I never used really the SNES Advantage or any of that kind of stuff. I don't like the joystick. I need to have the feel of it in my hand because I played it so much when I was a kid. So
could you play it with a Xbox controller?
Yeah, I could.
Oh, okay.
I could play it with an Xbox controller, but I could play it with that. It still doesn't feel right, and that wouldn't be my preference. It's better than playing on a control panel, but it's still not my preferred method.
Oh, not on control panel. Nah, I'm with you on that.
All right, Wolfman.
Well, I just want to touch upon something that DT said that is resonating with me, and he said the whole idea of it's now super. And we just need to take a step back and reflect what that super means. I mean, you're talking about going from somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 to 32 colors on the Nintendo Entertainment System to 32,000 colors. That's the palette that they were able to choose from. And an 8-channel sound system, because we don't talk enough about the sound. The sound blew my freaking eardrums out of my head, like especially the one you talked about, Derek, like Contra 3, the sound, that opening stage, and it's just like you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And you just summed it up. It's Nintendo was awesome, and now it's just super. It's that much better. You had mode 7, you had the zooming in and zooming out, you had parallax scrolling, you had giant sprites, you had the 8-channel of audio, the 36,000 color palette, and just you had these amazing Nintendo. I got to give them credit, because when the Super Nintendo came out, they made their asses sure that they kept their contracts with those companies that buttered their bread with the Nintendo, like Capcom and Konami, and they made sure they kept them on and had all of these good third-party licenses lined up with those games that were ready to come out for Super Nintendo. They were just really savvy business people, so I got to hand it to them.
Savvy, not necessarily nice, but
No,
savvy.
no, I did not say nice.
Yeah.
Savvy.
Go ahead, Eric. What you got?
All right, man. So my first game is gonna be a one-off weird game. I don't know if a lot of people have heard of it or anything, but this was close to my heart back in the day. This game was by Enix before they were a part of Square.
Oh,
so prior to Square Enix days, and this game's called Seventh Saga. And this was one of my introductions into a JRPG style game. It was weird, it was hard as hell, and the screen would shift into mode 7 for the battles, and you're like, what? Like, it's almost 3D. And it had really great music, but super difficult game. And this was probably my first taste of a game where it was like I'm stuck on a boss for 5 days. And it was, every day after school, I'm coming back. All right, I'm going to do it this time. You know, trying to get the magazines, trying to figure out, you know, how, you know, what's the trick? How do I beat this guy? And yeah, dude, the game was great. It was it was supposed to have a sequel. The sequel only came out in Japan. There might be an emulated English version called Mystic Arc. But the sequel changed up a lot of different stuff. Seventh Saga was like the OG one though, and it was a super good game. If you haven't played it, I urge you to check it out on original hardware or emulation. It's a good game.
I have it.
Take your notes. That's a game. Yeah. Write it down. Try that one out. What was it called? Seventh what?
Seventh Saga.
Seventh Saga.
Yeah.
All right. Man, that you're already starting it out with the JRPGs. Like, people don't even really realize those things. Like, they were just in Japan huge, right? But then, you know, you got some on the regular Nintendo, but they were bound by carts. And Super Nintendo, they did so much more in that. And that's where I was first introduced into JRPGs, was Super Nintendo, and then also PlayStation, of course. But yeah, dude, I'm gonna check it out for sure. I'm gonna check it out. And Wolf, you said you changed.
Oh,
I do have it.
You have it?
Yes. Dude. And I remember playing it, and I remember being frustrated. I remember it being tough as nails.
It's super hard.
Back then.
Yeah, I can understand that, because I've never played it before, but it says that the game was really difficult for its time, and, you know, with the relentless enemies and, you know, trying to overcome those battles. But it said the US version was more difficult than the Japanese version. So that's like, ugh.
Dark Souls of the time period.
Right.
For sure. But what changed a lot for the JRPGs is, like, you know, with the NES, you had the OG Final Fantasy, and you would cast fire, and you're like, and that was your fire spell. Whereas, like, you know, what Wolf was saying, the sound, you know, you cast a fire spell, you cast something else. Not only do you have your separate battle music going, but you have the actual explosions happening. You have all of that stuff going on with the extra audio, and that just added to the immersion. It was good.
Heck yeah. Good choice, man. Thanks. I am definitely going to check that one out.
Yep.
You're up, Wolf.
Oh, geez. Okay. Listen, you guys could stop me. You could yell at me, give me the finger from wherever you're at in the United States. But I was told that we could do series. So
yep,
that's what I'm doing now. So we could talk about the games that I'm going to be showing right now. Got to talk about this. The Pac-In game, probably one of the greatest platformers of all time. And then this game kind of took it to the next level, and then kind of packed in not only Super Mario World, but, you know, all 3 of the Mario games, which are awesome. And then Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. We must talk about those too. And then I'm throwing this in, and D will laugh because on November 17th, which is this Friday, don't tell anybody, Santa Claus is bringing Dakota Wolf, the updated version of this. So as a kid, I played this, and now my son is going to relive this with better graphics.
Yeah.
And that comes out this Friday. And to me, this is one of the best RPGs of all time, with humor and just the cool things, the mini games that were added to this RPG. It is just, it's god darn legendary, like the title says. So those are the 4 that I want to talk about.
Sorry to cut you off. Can you just hold that back up for nostalgic purposes for my mind, please?
Oh, definitely.
I mean, look at the box art. Look at the Super Nintendo in the bottom. Like, that is, I mean, I remember going to Blockbuster. I mean, not Blockbuster. We had like a local called Finkley's Movies, but I remember going to video stores to rent Super Nintendo games, and just for you to just have that tangible. Oh man, that's crazy, bro.
Yeah, that developed with Square.
Yep.
To handle the RPG elements of it. Such a good game.
Isn't the final boss a Final Fantasy character?
No, there's a secret boss that is a
maybe
Final
that's
Fantasy
what. Yeah,
character.
that's what. Yep.
There is a secret boss in the final. That's the Final Fantasy character. But the thing that I love, one of the many things I love about that game is it introduced us to Gino, who has still yet to be in any other Mario game, as far as I know. But I love that guy in that game.
Gino Mallow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember the humor in those games. That one I played only a little bit. I never beat that one, but I did play it. I never owned it. But the humor in that game is what set it apart from some of the other Mario games. Like, Mario up until that point was pretty linear. The story was pretty, just, I won't say bland, but just pretty straightforward. And then you get that, and it's like, whoa! It's like taking the whole like Mario universe and like turning it on its ear, where it made you look at it from a different way. It played totally different. It just felt different, but yet similar. That's the thing that I really liked about that. That's the part that I remember about that game specifically.
I think that Nintendo probably could, off of Mario alone, I think they could not make no other game for the system, period. I think they can just strictly make Super Mario games, and Nintendo would go on for the next 50 years and be fine. Just off of Mario.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not so much, but from the Mario Kart, Mario RPG, fighting, soccer, I think he's probably the biggest game mascot on the planet.
Paper Mario. Yep. Don't forget Paper Mario.
He's in every
Mario Tennis.
Yep.
Yeah.
Golf. Like every time I think that they've exhausted, like whenever my wife and I played Super Mario, the one for Wii U, what was that called? Super Mario World.
Oh yeah, Super Mario 3D World.
Super Mario 3D World.
I love that one.
Every time we would progress in a level, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm thinking that we're done with the game. So there's no level that can top the level that we just played, and it went on for like another 8 to 10 levels of it topping every level. So when I'm thinking they can't do anything else with Mario, then they come out Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and I'm like, are you kidding me, bro? Like, what?
These
guys are geniuses. So seeing Wolf put that series of Super Mario games is like, that is warranted, bro. Because those were those games. Like, they still are those games.
They are,
Yeah.
And you guys, everybody here, I know who they are, and I know what games they have, and the ways that we emulate the games. Pop in just for the hay of it when we're done this episode, Super Mario World, and take a look at how. I mean, Super Mario 3 for Nintendo was the best platformer I ever played to that point, and I'm like, nothing is going to top that. And then I played Super Mario World, and I was just like, I'm like, and it's like Dee just said, it's like they just kept one-upping, they just kept topping it, and just the games got better and better. And some people will say that Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island was not great, but I thought that was so creative. The color palettes, the how unusual it was, and how Yoshi was, a major character now, and just the sound, and just it was so cool and creative. They're just awesome.
So you saying that this Super Mario World, to me, out of this is probably top 3 Marios for me of the Mario platformers. Everybody knows Super Mario Sunshine is going to be #1 for me. I mean, some people don't like that one. I really enjoy that one. The original Mario 64, and then this one. I will play this one at least once a year. I'll play it. But the thing that's really cool about this this branched so much. There was so many hidden paths in this. They started it in Super Mario Brothers 3, right, with the warps and being able to unlock different pathways and stuff. But they went beyond. It wasn't just like one step. They went 4 or 5 steps beyond, because the first time you find out about the freaking Star Road, and you're like, what the heck is this? And then trying to unlock all of Star Road, and then trying to figure out like how to find all the special colored Yoshis that will actually take you to other areas, that you have to have the special Yoshi that's hard to get, then take it to this other area, and then you got to use it in this other area to get to another area. It's freaking mind-blowing how deep this game is, and people forget about it sometimes, but this game is super deep. Like, I remember the first time I figured out that I could go in the back door. Family-friendly show, don't be dirty. But the back door in the main castle for Bowser, right? When you when you figured out that path that you can get through into the back door, and you're like, dude, this is awesome. But it's like, so you think you have the game played, right? You play through it, you beat it, and you go, oh wait, I play through it again. I beat it a different way. I play through it again. Oh, I find something new, and well, where is this going to take me? This game has so much freaking stuff packed into it that you could play it 5, 6 times and still not unlock everything. It's good choice, Wolf. I love the Mario games. This one in particular is really important to me.
Cool.
Oh, but that wasn't my game.
Yeah.
That wasn't my game.
Now you're up.
I'm gonna touch.
Now you're up.
So sorry, I had to talk a little bit. That's too much diatribe.
No, it's all good, man.
So if we're talking about Mario games, I'm gonna hit it hot, heavy, and fast with another one. DT said that they could live off of just Mario games. I almost agree with that, but there's 2. It would be Mario, and it would be Zelda.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was hoping someone would say it.
If they had only those 2 series, only those, they could easily, I agree with you, easily go for another 50 years with just those. And this one in particular, the Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, this one is okay. So those of you that have played Zelda games before, you play the first one, pretty straightforward. Play the second one, totally different on how it plays, but again, pretty straightforward, but there's a little more story elements in it. This one in particular, this one specifically is what I remember had, yep, there it is. This one specifically.
This one's sealed.
Ah, look at you.
Oh my gosh.
What does it smell like?
I'll give you 10,000 for it. What's up?
Wow.
Factory sealed. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
What does it taste like? Don't taste it. I'm just kidding. But
that's crazy, bro.
Dude,
that's amazing.
Favorite Zelda game of all time, right there.
And the thing that this one played so freaking well, like sometimes, I don't see how people can have complaints, but sometimes people have complaints about this one because it's still too simplistic. The story that is involved in this one, like this was the first time that you really got into the lore that is Zelda. Like they give you little bits and pieces, like what the lore is on, of Hyrule and what the whole world is, and also talking about the Dark World. Once you started figuring that stuff out, you're like, whoa, it's like 2 freaking games. Like totally different. Again, just like Super Mario World. Like this one, it's like, oh wait, this is what it is. No, there's more stuff here. Wait, and you can just go through and find other things. And I do remember, this was the first time that I played a Zelda game that because you don't just get the Master Sword. There's stuff you got to do. I don't want to spoil any of that stuff, but when you get the Master Sword, I remember for me when I got the Master Sword in this one, with the way that the story progressed, it actually felt more like a mythical weapon, not just some weapon that shot something out, right? And so it almost like I had more pride in earning that weapon and knowing what it stood for, but that was because of the story elements in this game. The story is what did it. The lore, the story that comes with Zelda: Link to the Past. Yeah, it's just Everything about this game I like. I really, really like this game. To me, this is my second Zelda game. Number one is still going to be Ocarina of Time, but this one comes in a real close second. Look, I almost gave this one the first one only because of the water temple for Ocarina of Time. That temple that can just die in a fire. But anyways, but this game is amazing. You guys have any memories on this one?
Oh, way too many
we
memories,
all do.
dude. Way too many memories from the time that you get to the. I don't want to spoil any of the game too. For people that haven't played it, you gotta go and play that game. But you get to what you think the last boss is. You're like, this dude ain't Ganon, but he's like, pretty tough or whatever. And then you beat him, and you're like, I gotta do a whole bunch of other stuff. This game ain't done yet. And then your sword gets bigger, it gets better. The sound when you're swinging it instead of like stabbing it out, dude.
Too many jokes.
It's too many. But
too many jokes.
But I'm telling you, dude, the game is just amazing.
Just from the way the game starts out in the very beginning, you're running through the rain, the sprites of seeing the raindrops hit the ground when you go to the castle, all the little, the way you take the sword out and you hit a bush and finding all secret little passages. I mean, that game was straight heat from front to back. I have it on Super Nintendo. I have the remake 3D version. What else? Do I have another one? I think those are the only two.
Wait, there's a remake 3D version?
It wasn't a remake. It was just the 3D, the 3DS version. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
3DS.
Oh,
for the 3DS.
Yeah.
Dude,
Got it on 3DS as well. The only thing I want Nintendo to do with Link in these future games with the Switch 2, I understand that the console doesn't have to be the most powerful to sell games. I get that. I understand that. I wish they could give us more power. Cool. Got it. The only thing I want them to do is give Link a voice. I'm tired of this right here. I'm tired of this right here with Link. Let him talk. Let him talk, man. Let him say something. Let him have a look. We have exactly. Like let him when they finally give Link a voice, because in the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda, she talks just a little bit, and I'm like, why won't they give Link a voice? When they give him a voice and start letting them have dialogue back and forth where you don't have to read. I know reading is fundamental, but when you don't have to read, you can just watch that great cinematic with some acting, and that's good. They're working on the Legend of Zelda movie.
Mm-hmm.
Why not give them a voice? But back to that. But that's still a fire game.
Good.
That's all I got.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I never even thought about that. And that's a good point, DT. Like straight on.
I mean, I thought it was gonna be crazy to what are they gonna make Mario sound like for an hour and 30-minute film? But when I watched the film, it was the most nostalgic. That was one of the best movies of the summer, next to Ninja Turtles.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah.
So
Mario
it wasn't Barbie, great. I'll tell you that.
No.
No. You saw Barbie?
Hey, I like the Barbie.
Not
movie,
in the
man.
theater, but I ended up watching a little bit on my friend has like movies that he puts online, and I watched it there, and it was
well, you're not a Barbie girl.
Good.
You're not a Barbie girl, is what you're telling us.
No, I'm not.
No.
And this is I'm not trying to make a joke of this, but I just want Wales to cover his ears. But Link might actually be deaf.
Oh, that is something too. I've heard.
No,
that.
I'm serious.
I've
there were
heard
some rumors going around. He's never had a voice because he can't speak.
Huh.
Now, if that is the case,
dude,
then I get it. If that's the case,
but they need to come out and say it.
Right.
Yeah, they need to say that.
I mean, not him say it, because he wouldn't be able to, because it sounds kind of weird. But you know what I'm saying,
dude?
So what? Everybody was thinking it, but so DT. Anybody else have anything on that game?
Just unbelievable.
It's a instant classic. Will always be one of the best top tier Super Nintendo games to ever grace that console, man.
I just
I
wish
agree.
that it came in a gold cartridge for the SNES.
So here's the thing. You can run down this rabbit hole. You can get aftermarket cases made and aftermarket stickers, so you can make your own gold cartridge you want. Take the circuit board out, so it's a legit circuit board, and put it in. I've actually gone down the rabbit hole of picking up a few actual modded carts. Like I have a Super Mario Kart that's called Hyper Street Kart that has has Street Fighter characters in it, and like you're throwing like red fireballs rather than red shells and stuff. So there is a whole, if you want to do some of that kind of stuff, like people saw that I changed my skin on my N64 and stuff. If you want a gold cart, you can make a gold cart. Just you don't want to get rid of that original.
It would have been fire if Nintendo actually would have put out a gold cartridge. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
All right, DT, what you got for your next game?
Let's go with I said no particular order, but I had to get that one out of the way. Let's go with I'm thinking Super Metroid, man. I got that on the wall back here too.
Oh, Super Metroid.
I remember seeing the commercials while we're watching WCW wrestling.
There it is again.
And they break and they show the commercial, and you just see Samus running, blasting, and they're like, "Hey, pick this up out now for Super Nintendo." And it's like, "Oh snap, yo! Did you see that?" So if you you look at again the graphics for its time. Even if you look at it now, if you look at how those graphics still hold up in 2023, you know what I mean? So I playing Metroid Dread and then going back to play the remake that they just remade, going back to play those games and then to revisit Super Metroid, bro, that you can't say Super Nintendo without mentioning that one game. I mean y'all hit on the heavy hitters: Super Mario in the series, Legend of Zelda, Metroid as well.
Definitely.
Metroid. You know how many people are waiting or have been waiting for years for the next Metroid for Nintendo to make the next Metroid? People are waiting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Waiting.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I gotta get at the Super Metroid, man.
Super Metroid. Can I speak, or
Please.
did you have something to say?
No, go ahead. Fire off.
Yeah, dude, Super Metroid. That's one of those games where I'm sitting as a little kid, legs crossed in the dark, 12:30 at night. You get into that level where it's the space station or whatever that's been destroyed, and you find that other suit that's just like there with like the face eaten off, and it's got like the little crawly things on it, and it's playing that creepy music, and you're just like, dude, like what happened? Like, there's a suit that looks just like mine and they're messed up. And then you run in there and you see Kraid, who takes up like 3 full screens, and you're like, what? Like, this guy is huge. And oh dude, the music in that game, the sound, the way Samus runs, and then you get the speed boost, and you can run and you could jump to the top of the screen, and everything about that game holds up even now. Even when you go into that room with all the statues and you're like, what's this room for? I don't know, it's just got a bunch of statues and some creepy music. And the game, the nostalgia, that game, that's one I will always go back to and play. Like, I love that game.
Total transparency, I've never finished that game.
What?
I know what I'm doing next week. I'm gonna finish it. The next time
don't feel bad, bro.
The next time we come in here and we're talking about Super Nintendo, I'm gonna say I beat that game, but I've never actually beat it. I do like it. I like it a lot, but I guess I was like that when I was a kid too. I get distracted easily. Like so in a game like that, I don't know what other game was out there, but I just didn't. I never beat it. No.
Oh, well, watch this. Watch this then. By a show of hands, right now, for everybody that's in here, who still has a Super Nintendo backlog?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
You'd be lying if you didn't have your Nintendo.
Okay, so we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, have you guys ever noticed too? Like this Metroid, that's the only series, Metroid in particular, that I've liked in 2 different iterations, because you got the actual Metroid, right? The Discovery, basically the 2D, Metroidvania, where that was, so that's absolute fire, right? But then also when they went into Metroid Prime, where they went into first person, that was also good. That rarely happens. Like, look at some of the Hyrule Warriors, which is like a fighting one with for Zelda, or there was like a Link's Crossbow Adventure, again, like a first person. That stuff don't work. It doesn't work for me. But Metroid in particular does work both those ways. And Super Metroid, I know it's always been on my, and I just keep forgetting about it, but that's on my to-do list, because I love Metroid games, and I can't believe I haven't finished it yet. So
dude,
thanks for the reminder.
I remember the commercials where, because PlayStation was out and everybody was talking about, oh, Tomb Raider, Lara Croft, first female main character and stuff like that. And then you would see Super Nintendo like, nah, we had Samus. And then there were people that still never finished the Metroid or whatever. Like, what? Samus is a girl? Like,
from the first Metroid?
Yep.
She took off the helmet, and you were like, "What the hell?"
Yep.
It's like, damn,
that was awesome.
It was awesome to find out. It was, God, it's such a good game. I'm sorry, Wolf. I'm totally eating into you.
No, you're not. And Dee mentioned it, and Dan mentioned it too, and it's something that I wanted to bring up. What a great pick by you, right, Derek? I mean, just, you can't talk about Super Nintendo and not mention Super Metroid, but it is so important in the icon of video game history that it ushered in its own subgenre. Like Dan Larson said, Metroidvania games where you needed to get a certain weapon or power in order to advance, and then there was backtracking, and there was a map, and you had to uncover certain parts of the map by going back and forth to get certain powers. And it's just it's just part of like video game lore. I mean, it's such an important video game in the history of video games. And if you like platformers and you like this new subgenre, these Metroidvania games, and it was Metroid, but 10 times better, because of the capabilities of the Super Nintendo. So, unbelievable game.
All right, I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. I'm gonna let Eric go next. Eric, what do you got? Yeah, what do you got for a game?
You wild man, you.
That's right. I gotta keep you guys on your toes.
So my next one's huge.
That's what she said.
This introduced me to this series of games, and still is in the top 2, probably my favorite. I have purchased this game at least 7 times, 7 different platforms. I have played through every version thinkable of this game, and I still enjoy it, and I will still go back and play it. My wife's a singer. I make her sing the song from this game. This game was introduced on the SNES as Final Fantasy 3.
I knew it.
It was because in the US we had Final Fantasy 1 for the NES, we had Final Fantasy 2 for the SNES, and then we got Final Fantasy 3, but it was actually Final Fantasy 6. And its original iteration for the SNES included horrible spelling of things, real bad translations of stuff, but it did not matter. This game was so iconic. You had music by Nobuo Uematsu. You had what's the director's name? Sakaguchi. This game was just epic. Now, it was long. You thought it was another game where you thought you were done, and then the world changed, and it was a whole new set of characters and games. I've seen lists where people were like, all right, so let's take actual video game villains and their acts in the game, and let's rank them on who's the most evil. Dude, this villain destroyed the planet. He poisoned people, innocent people, in a castle for no reason. Like he did, and he dressed like a clown and laughed about it the entire time. Like, dude, this guy was the dude from Saw before Saw. Like, he was just
the Joker. They based the Joker off him.
Yeah, right, exactly. And he was, the game was. This is the game where you can name your own characters. I'm a little kid, and I'm like, oh, he's the main character. I'm gonna name him Eric. I'm like, oh, who's the girl? Oh, which girl do I like in school? I'm gonna name her that.
Yeah.
Go and change the names of all the characters, and you go in there, and then you get some friend that's like, they come over and play, and they're like, who's Maria? You like Maria? And it's just a whole thing. Anyway,
your name
that was another level of immersion.
Right. Like the story was crazy. I got emotional as a kid going through the stuff, and that's not even touching on the epic music at the end, but that's not even touching on like the subplot of dealing with segregation and racism. Like, the whole thing, like, oh, there's this chick, she's a little different than a lot of the other people, so she gets treated different. And you got, all these people treating, these people different ways. It's got imperialism in it. It's got democracy in it. It's insane.
Well, that's deep.
Yeah,
it is deep. Damn.
So I wanted to ask Eric, so how do you feel nowadays to not see like really Final Fantasy games like that on the Nintendo platform, like Final Fantasy 16 to Final Fantasy 7? Like, I don't understand how does that make you feel, or it doesn't matter one way or the other? Being that it was exclusive to Nintendo back then.
Yeah, it was exclusive to Nintendo, and I was real sad that they lost it until I played Final Fantasy 7 and was like, this is a great game, and it doesn't matter what it's on. But I'm not, don't get me wrong, I know the later Final Fantasies appeal to a lot of people, but I'm all about the originals.
Turn-based.
Yeah, turn-based fight system. That's just for me, it was the right time for me to be introduced to that. So that's what stuck with me. I'm sure if I wasn't introduced to that and I was introduced to the other fight systems, I would be like, oh yeah, I'm all about that. But no, that was.
So would you say that Final Fantasy is better than Chrono Trigger?
Dude, that's hard, man. That's
no.
You can't. I can't.
Yeah,
I can't say one is better than the other.
I can't.
Chrono Trigger.
You stuck on the island and you only can play one.
Right.
Final Fantasy or Chrono Trigger? What we going with?
I'm going with. Damn it, that's hard. You know why that's hard? Because he's got that game, and I won't waste a bunch of time on it because we could do an entire episode on Chrono Trigger.
Right,
yeah.
right.
No, we got time. It's gonna get talked about later for sure.
Oh yeah,
maybe not today.
But what I will say is, I would probably pick Chrono Trigger because I can replay it and get 14 different endings.
Exactly.
Yeah, but anyway, Final Fantasy 3. I had to talk about it that way. Go for it, guys.
It's funny. It's funny that you mentioned like how you like the turn-based versus the newer stuff. Again, maybe that's because I grew up the same time. I mean, you're younger than I am, of course, but I remember that, and I played that when I was younger, the turn-based style. Like even me going back and playing, still haven't even finished that one. Is the new Final Fantasy 7 remake. It's fun, but it doesn't feel the same. It just doesn't. I've played the original Final Fantasy Final Fantasy 7 many times, so I know what you're talking about. I know we're talking about Final Fantasy 3. I don't want to go into Final Fantasy 7 too much, but I know what you're meaning. That's the two. Like if I played the original turn-based so much that it feels weird to try and play it another way. But I still enjoy it. But it's not this. It doesn't. It's good, but it doesn't have the good with nostalgia tied into it outside of the story. So but yeah, I hear what you're saying. I haven't beat Final Fantasy 3 either, so you're adding another one to my list. Dang it, Eric.
Dude, the opera house scene from Final Fantasy 3
All
does
right.
it to me every time.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to finish that one by next week. I got Super Metroid. I got.
Yeah, those are long games, man.
Dude, bro, crazy. What's up, Wolf? What you got now? You're up.
Oh, okay. Oh, this next game is going to make my brain go like this.
Nice.
I'm ready.
Going to explode out. All right. So the last time I talked about one of my favorite platformers, the Mario series, and we all talked about it. Like, I agree with D. You could make countless Mario Brothers games, and that'll make Nintendo money, 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 money. And then, Dan, of course, you brought up The Legend of Zelda, and that's money, 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 money. And then Nintendo, in their back pocket, said, well, wait a damn second. Let's put this shit out.
I knew it.
Yeah,
I knew it. I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest, and Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble.
Nice.
Dan's
Wow.
holding up the games there too. So I want to talk briefly about this and then get everybody's opinion on it, because I could literally talk about these games for 15 or 20 minutes straight. They hold a special place in my heart because I think Nintendo, they were smart, because you had the Mario games, which to me were more accessible to kids. I mean, there's definitely Mario games that are tough, and there's sections in Mario games that are challenging and you have to think and stuff like that. But when Nintendo put out the Donkey Kong Country series, they took platforming, but I feel like they made it a little bit more difficult for people like myself that liked more of a platforming challenge. And with that, we were rewarded with Rare and the way that they made their graphics. Like, I can't explain the Donkey Kong Country graphics, but I don't know. Would you dare say not 3D, but the immersion to see the Donkey Kong Country sprites in like a cartoony 3D background with David Wise, who has become one of my favorite music composers in video games. I mean, all I have to say is the water level in Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2. Yes, exactly. I mean, just the soundtrack, and every time they put out a Donkey Kong Country, it is more and more challenging. Like, for me, one of my favorite platformers of all time is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I mean, me and my older son, we went through the whole game, and there were parts that had him crying. And then he would hand me the controller, and I would try, and I would die a few times, and then I would eventually get it. Yeah, I mean, they're tough games. And I think Nintendo's smart, because they had their entry-level platformer with the Mario games, and then they kind of upped it with the Donkey Kong Country games. And I just think they're awesome. You know, graphics, sound, challenge, lots of secrets, lots of things to find. I forget the name of the rhino, but you get that power up where you ride on the rhino's back.
Was it Rambi?
Yeah, Rambi. I think it was Rambi. And you got Cranky Kong, and just super cool stuff.
Nerd fact. So it's rumored that Cranky Kong was actually the original Donkey Kong from the original Donkey Kong in the arcade. So that's one of those.
I heard that. Yeah,
I heard that rumor too.
Speaking of Donkey Kong, they have a Mario and Donkey Kong game coming out too.
Nice.
Have you seen that one?
They should.
No.
You haven't seen that, bro?
No. For what system?
The Switch. You guys are joking.
No, I'm serious. I don't know what you're talking. I think you're BS.
Drop knowledge.
No, what?
Drop it. I'm ready.
No, what's it called?
Let me see. I'm serious, bro. Like,
all right. While you're doing that, looking it up, I'm gonna mention something real quick after Eric. Eric, what do you got? Donkey Kong Country.
Oh, I was just gonna say that they're not. The reason why it looks different is they're not technically. I'm gonna be the well actually guy, so everyone's gonna hate me. Well, actually, there aren't sprites. they're models.
That's all right.
Yeah, at that point they were models, which is why Donkey Kong Country looks so different. They were actually 3D modeled. Not, they were no longer sprites at that point.
Yeah, it didn't look like sprites.
Yeah, and they were, and it was just a new technology. I remember when Donkey Kong Country was going to get released, if you purchased Mario vs. Donkey
Kong. Oh, damn.
Nice.
All right. February 16th, 2024. I can't believe you guys didn't hear that.
Well, we know now.
No, we do now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Heck.
All right.
When you if you pre-purchased the original Donkey Kong Country, I think it was from Toys R Us, it came with a VHS tape.
Yep.
Of how they made the Donkey Kong Country game.
I think I have it still. I have it still. I know I have that VHS tape.
So do I.
It had like the plants, the green plants on the sticker.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was dope.
You can find that I'm sure somewhere online, like stream it somewhere. I mean, it's on the interweb somewhere. So
and King K. Rool's music.
Oh yeah,
fire.
So two things that I want to talk about because Wolf had brought them up. So I like the fact that it was very difficult, and I think two things. It was very difficult, and the models looked really, really nice. So part of the challenge that it was, and why it looked so good, is because they were able to pull so much out of the Super Nintendo. Was, you'll notice, and now you're gonna play this, and you're gonna go, oh my god, look at how close the characters are to the screen. Like if you look at it versus like a Super Mario, how far back the screen is compared to Donkey Kong Country, everything's narrowed in. So you have less time to react to things. You have you can see the models better. It takes less processing power because you're not having all these extra characters moving on the screen. You'll also notice you usually won't have more than 4 or 5 moving things at one point, big moving items. I'm not talking about like the bananas spinning and stuff like that. That's not what I'm talking about. So there's all these little tricks that they did. But also, I love Donkey Kong Country for the fact that it has a bunch of weird, like those secret paths that you talked about. But also there were secret paths that were easier to access with 1 or 2 of the different characters. Donkey Kong you needed for power moves, right? So sometimes you had to drop him off. He had to pound the ground, and he hits the ground, and a tire would pop out, and you'd have to roll that somewhere to jump up and get somewhere and do a secret. But there's also Diddy Kong. I actually preferred playing Diddy Kong because when you learn how to do the cartwheel off of a platform, and you're moving further, and then you can jump, once you figure that little piece out, the game becomes way easier. Like, way easier. The game is super hard to play all the way through with Donkey Kong. Gets way easier when you play it with Diddy Kong. So
it's kind of almost like a cheat move because you can actually like you'll run off the ledge and grab a little bit of air and then jump.
Yeah. And so, but I love those games. I love them. The first one in particular, the second one was good, third one was good, but the first one, that one in particular, is very, very good. Thanks for bringing that one up.
Dude, I could hear the title screen.
Yeah.
Cranky Kong cranking that thing.
Oh
yeah. I could hear it just in my head.
No, it's a great point.
The boombox.
Yeah, another cool thing I want to add to that real quick is, not that it was like Sonic, because it was cool to play Sonic, going upside down and swirling. But on Donkey Kong, the way he was getting those barrels and shooting those barrels and collecting all those bananas. And then you got the little rail cart board that you was on. You had
so hard.
The mine cart. Yep.
Oh, so hard.
And then like the challenge of trying to get the KONG on every level. That was pretty dope.
Yeah. I agree. Is it me now? We got anything else?
It's
we can
you.
Keep this rolling?
Yeah.
Keep this rolling?
It is you.
All right.
Yeah, it's on you.
So here we go. This one is a hidden gem. I think it's a hidden gem. People don't normally talk about it a lot, but I freaking love this game for Super Nintendo. And it's actually, there's 2. They came out with a sequel that's not near as good. But this first one in particular is freaking amazing. If you guys give it a chance, I love this game. I didn't think I was gonna like it, and I played it over at a friend's house. I immediately just gravitated towards it, and I still do to this day. ActRaiser.
Oh yeah, ActRaiser, yeah.
And then, like I said,
Yep.
they do have ActRaiser 2, but
Yeah.
they took some of the cool stuff out of ActRaiser and tried to make a whole game out of that stuff, and it didn't work right. This one's not as good. Focus on this one. So ActRaiser was one of those, like, it's kind of like a Sims game at first. Partially a Sims game where you're helping, your people. You're like a god that's helping people, and clearing out enemies and stuff so that they can build and they can have kids, and then more people, and they can build more and they learn more, and the civilization grows, and you're protecting them. But then at certain points, you have to step in to actually go down, and it becomes like a 2D platformer battle, basically like a 2D platformer brawler kind of. And so what you do is you're normally just overseeing, and you have this little cherub that you kind of move around, but you're overseeing this whole world. But then the first time that you go into one of those areas to unlock something, and the camera starts to spin as you're dropping towards, dude, blew my freaking mind that Super Nintendo was able to do that. Like, you're falling towards the ground, and the music, still, I would say, probably one of my top 4 music on any games, like all through game systems.
Wow.
ActRaiser, I freaking love ActRaiser. The music in ActRaiser is amazing. So, and I actually, if you can find it, it's kind of hard to find, but they actually had an orchestral version where they had like an orchestra that performed the music. It's really hard to find, but it's awesome if you can find that anywhere. But then you'd get to these parts where you'd go to 2D, and so you drop in, and you would actually, your soul would basically embody into a stone statue, and you would animate the stone statue, and so you're running around as the stone statue with a sword. And there were big bosses, lots of colorful, flashy graphics that were on there. The music added on to that. The platforming aspects were a lot of fun. So yeah, again, kind of a hidden gem, but if you guys get a chance, add it to your list. ActRaiser, it is
I've
fun.
never played it, so I'm definitely gonna have to try it.
Yeah, me either.
It's good. It's better than it should be. Like, you start playing, you're gonna go, oh, okay, I see what's going on. Oh, we lost this kid. Oh, he's poisoned. Oh, I got to go down here and find this kid. Then you find the kid, and you realize, oh shoot, the kid actually died. Dude, it's crazy. The game itself, yeah, it's deep.
Hold the game up again. Let me see. I'm gonna tell you a funny story. See, I remember seeing this game lots of times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. And back then, you guys know, I don't know if it was Eric or Wolf that mentioned it. It's kind of hard to judge a game. Like, we didn't have YouTube back then.
Yeah.
So when he mentioned magazines, so you had to look at the artwork, and if you didn't really know too much about the game, or if you didn't see it in a game magazine, you got to judge how good the game is going to look off the artwork. And then you go somewhere like Walmart when they had the game behind the cages, and you got to ask the workers, hey, can I? You mind if I see that game? And you want to look on the back of it. You got to look at the still images to make sure is this game worth playing. But like you said, it's like Dan Tron just said, though, it's a really good game once you start playing it. So that's something I'm just gonna have to add to my list as well.
Well, I remember
because I've seen it many of times, but never dove into it.
Yeah, the box, because I have actually the box for this. The box, the back of it, they actually show, one of the pictures is actually like the Sims look where you're overlooking. That's gonna maybe deter some kids. They're like, I don't want to do that. But then you see there's another one where it's actually a picture of the night that you animate. So it's kind of like those in betweens with like, yeah, I like this one, but I don't like this. I'm gonna go buy this other game over here. I could see that happening with that game. And they actually made a remake of ActRaiser out on Steam. You can still get it. It's kind of fun, but it's not as good as this. I'm just gonna tell you straight up. It's not as good as this one. This is the version that you want to play. The original ActRaiser, Super Nintendo. You won't be sorry. If you give it a little bit of time, you're going to be like, it's one of those games that you want to progress the story. You're wanting to help the land. You actually find that you like this planet, you like the people, you're building relationships with the people, and they're respectful of you, and then you're wanting to help them, and they're wanting to expand to other areas, you're wanting to save other areas. So it builds, it's a little different. You get more attached to things that you wouldn't normally get attached to in a game. So yeah, check it out.
Nice.
All right, is it DT again? Let's do one more round. And then we'll call this one because I think
All
we've
right.
had some great conversations. But DT, what you got? You got one more.
I
I
don't
know
want
you
to be
do.
too long-winded, so let me go with man. I want to say it's two that comes to mind, but I'm only gonna name one since we're might be scrapped for time. For me, I don't know if you guys ever played this, but this right here brings back a lot of memories for me, and I'm gonna go with Super Smash TV.
Oh,
Super Smash
Oh,
TV.
Oh,
Now, Super
okay.
Smash TV. Now, I've never played it in the arcade. I know it was a twin stick shooter in the arcade, but my brother and I, we played the dog out of that game. Never beat it before. Never quite beat it. One time in our lives, in my whole life, my brother and I, we made it to we was at the very end of the game, but we weren't supposed to be playing the Super Nintendo. So when my mom came home, I think I told this story in one of my videos. My mom came home, we turned off the TV, we paused the game, turned off the TV. Now you got to think we didn't have a game genie. There was in Super Smash TV, either you play through the whole game and beat it, or you pause it and come back and play it later, but you can't pick up where you left off. You got to complete this game in its entirety. My mom came home. We turned the TV off because we were playing so good. We used very little continues. We had a whole bunch of lives. We both were in God mode playing that day, right? So, anyways, my mom came and she felt the back of the TV and felt that it was hot. So she
oh,
said, "You guys, y'all gonna play the game when I tell you not to play the game?" So she told us, "Look, turn the game off." And I'm looking at my brother, and he's looking at me. I'm like, "Bro, I'm not." I'm looking at my mom like, "I'm not turning this game off." But you're not gonna tell your mom that.
right.
But
No, I'm not.
ultimately, we had to turn the game off, and it hurt my soul to turn that game off because I had to pull the plug on it.
Yeah.
And she was like, if you don't turn it off, I'm gonna take it from you, and you're still gonna turn it off. So I had to turn it off. We turned the game off, and we ended up trying to repeat that great run we've had that day. And to this day, we've never been able to do it. We have not been able to do it. I'm sure we are capable of doing it, but that game was like a game show. The way they implemented the controls to use X, B, A, and Y to shoot 8 different ways.
Mm-hmm.
That game is a really fun game if you can play it with a friend or a relative or something like that. Smash TV is a really dope game. I don't know if it didn't get enough love like that, but I know it was pretty big in the arcade, and
oh yeah.
it was one of my favorites on the Super Nintendo, man. The
Was it?
music. What's up?
Wasn't that one of the ones that the multi-tap would work for, and you could play 4-player?
No, it was only for 2 players.
Because I know there's
Oh,
a
we're
few
talking.
of those Super Nintendo games that had that multi-tap that you could play 4 players. That would have been a good 4-player game. So
Yeah, it would have been a bit chaotic, but yeah, it would have been fun to play 4 players on there.
Super Bomberman was one that you could play for.
Yeah,
Yep,
and they
yep,
had a
yep,
version
yep.
You
that
needed the
came
right
with a
peripheral.
multi-tap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude,
multi-tap.
I still need a multi-tap. Well, for me as being a peripheral whore, I don't have a SNES multi-tap yet.
No,
Oh,
I don't
man.
think I do either.
Oh man.
Hudson Soft multi-tap came
Yeah.
with the
You know about
Super
Hudson
Bomberman.
Soft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Yeah, just like Atlas.
Yep.
Oh man. Okay, Eric, what you got?
I'd buy that for
All right.
$1.
All right, so I'm gonna change it up because I hope that I get to talk more about the other games in another episode.
You
But
will.
this
We
one,
got you.
this is one where a friend would pick it up, they'd tell you the name of it, and you're like, man, that can't be a good game. And then before you know it, you're up all night with your friend playing this game and trying to finish it. Even when you put it in and you hear the title music, you see the title screen, you're like, this game can't be good. There's no way. Even if you try to describe it, you're like, this game is you killing people with a water gun.
Oh.
And you're like, nah, this is not a good game. And then you play it. This game is called Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Yes.
And
so
this
funny.
Was a 2-player game. You fight the zombies, you kill them with water, you're using soda cans as grenades. Dude, you're one kid wearing 3D glasses for some reason, or you
Because it was
can
the
play
80s.
right.
Not 90s,
Well,
actually.
90s, yeah. And then, it's just such a good game. The music's all weird. It's got all your classic horror movie tropes in it. You got the undead zombies. You got the tiny little dolls that are chasing after you. You got the guy with the hockey mask and a chainsaw coming after you. It's just super hard game. Excellent to play with a friend because the co-op mode was just great. And just I don't know. Just I could spend hours playing that game. Such a good game.
So I'm gonna take my neighbor. Let me.
Oh, it's a great game. What a good pick by Eric.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
That game is fun as hell.
Dude, if you like Super Smash TV, it's in that same vein.
Yeah.
You're both
Yeah, I
going
gotta check
around
that out,
shooting.
man.
Yeah.
I've seen it before, but just never played it.
See, this is what happens when you watch Law episodes. All of a sudden, you're like, I gotta take some notes, and you go back and you're like, this game is great. How did I miss that? Because I don't know, just too much.
It's a good game, man.
Yeah.
All right, Wolf.
Well, Eric,
I know,
it is.
I hate to do it to you.
Yeah. I was gonna just say to Eric, it is good when you put it in now. But did you say hiya?
So dirty.
Hold yourself together.
Yeah, I'm starting to get delirious.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. I don't like Eric said, I don't know. It's like Sophie's choice here. I don't know which.
I know.
Which
so
one to pick here.
We got. I mean, there's everything out there still. Like none of us have even touched on any of the fighting games. Like
I know.
No.
And I held back for that. I held back.
So there's a lot of those, and I'm not talking about a fighting game, but there's a lot of them out there. I mean, but that's just an example. Racing games, So there's one that I think that I would like you to talk about, Wolf, but if you don't feel like it, we can wait.
I think you know what I'm going to be talking about.
Let's talk about it.
All right.
Anyway, this it could be. Yes, it's definitely one of my favorite games of all time.
Oh my gosh! No,
Super Castlevania.
Yes, he did.
4. And by the way, the artwork on this box, you can't see it. It is picturesque, and well, from other Law episodes, people would know I really like the Castlevania series a lot. And you were coming off of Castlevania 3, which I thought was great. I thought 1 was good, tough. 2 took a step back in my eyes. 3 brought the series back to prominence because you had different characters and just took a different path. It was like Castlevania 1 on steroids. And I'm like, I don't know if they're ever going to top that. And then this came out and blew my goddamn underwear off about 55 feet, smashed through the window. And that opening, I don't know, that music was just like unbelievable. And the drawbridge comes down and then it just goes boom right into that soundtrack. And you're like, holy crap, dude. It is just, I don't know what to say, man. It is just, if you talk about Super Nintendo and you like platformers and you like, I don't want to say horror, but you like
action.
An action like game. This game has to come to mind. And to me, it's one of the best soundtracks of all time in my eyes. Super Castlevania 4. It's just a game, like Dan Larson said, he plays Super Mario World. He'll play it 1 time a year. I will pull this game out and I will beat it from start to finish. It is nostalgic. It takes me back to the good old days, and I absolutely loved it. And since we're doing a series, I am going to mention one other game in the same vein. This game's a little bit more rare.
Oh,
I don't know if you can see it.
Super rare.
Dracula X. And, just a quick history lesson. Dracula X was Nintendo's way to try to make Rondo of Blood.
Yeah.
From the PC Engine.
Yep.
It was their remake. It had a couple new things. It didn't have quite as good graphics and sound as the PC Engine, but I don't know. I still like it a lot. I think it's still a really good Castlevania game. It's definitely in my top 10 of all time. But Super Castlevania 4 and Castlevania Dracula X are must plays for the Super Nintendo. Any thoughts, gentlemen?
Great pick. I was gonna say Super Castlevania, but I was gonna save it for another episode. But I'm glad that I didn't say it and you said it, so you can actually show that beautiful artwork.
Yeah.
But I just want to piggyback a little about what you said about the opening in that game. It starts off real quiet. The drawbridge comes down, and then you hear those organs playing. Dun, dun, dun,
Oh,
dun, dun, dun.
yeah.
Blows your mind, bro.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
game
yeah.
is crazy. I mean, the weaponry that you can use in the game, the enemy types, the swinging. I mean, like you said, I won't argue with that being in your top, one of your top of all time. Great
Yeah.
pick, bro.
Thanks.
Yeah, that game is dope. Like straight up is dope. And I thought actually the more impressive one for me was actually that you have Dracula X. That one was how should I put it? That one was an enigma for me. Like, how could you fit a CD-based game like Rondo of Blood? Because that's what it was on the PC Engine. It was not like the Hue cards. It was disc based. So to try and take a disc-based version of that game to try and I can't say it any easier. Dumb it down to fit it on a cartridge, at least an affordable cartridge. I mean, they could have made a larger cartridge, I'm sure, but I mean, for it to be cost effective. But that was the so I love Super Castlevania 4, but the Dracula X that's cool that you brought that up because that one was like a feat for how they even got that to even work.
Agreed.
On Super Nintendo. So
and it still looks
call.
good and it plays well too, but it's not Rondo of Blood for PC Engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Is this it? Is this the last one?
I think it's on you.
You're closing it off.
You're closing it off. You got one more.
I'm looking at a bunch of these here, just like all of us, and I'm like, okay. So I think I'm gonna do this one. So there's a few that I wanted to talk about, but this one in particular, I just like all of us. This is we've been talking about hard as nails games, so I'm noticing a theme here. This game is freaking hard. It's always been hard. It was hard on arcade. It's been hard on Genesis. It was hard on Super Nintendo. It's hard to this day. Look, don't get me wrong. Dantron likes it hard most of the time. However, when it comes to this type of video game, this is very difficult.
Yep, that's what I knew you were busting out.
Oh, yeah.
So this game looks freaking amazing. It plays great. The music is nostalgic. Everybody remembers playing a version of this game. This is actually one of my favorite versions of this game. The arcade version's good too, but this version specifically, like, I remember I owned this way back in the day, and this was one of my. I only had like 6 games at a time, but this was one. This one dude, my hands bled because I was like, I'm gonna beat this game, but this game was so freaking hard. Like anybody that's played any Ghouls and Ghosts, Ghosts and Goblins, any of those ones, it's kind of the same thing. But this game in particular on Super Nintendo, super awesome. Again, like I said before, very colorful. The graphics lended themselves well to the Nintendo hardware. The music was fantastic. The controller worked well with it too because it was very responsive. I really, really liked this version of the game, and I could not go with the First Law episode talking about Super Nintendo without pulling out Super Ghouls and Ghosts. And the artwork on this one, too, I mean, I know it gets a little blurred out, but the artwork is dope on
awesome.
this. Freaking Capcom. Capcom was owning on Super Nintendo. Like, there was a lot of really good Capcom games out there. That was, I would say, probably this probably their heyday, really, if you think about it. Like Capcom, when they really went ham and they were owning everything that they touched, it was on Super Nintendo, and this is one of those games.
That game is terrific. Sound effects in that game, the fact that the levels, you would be running through, and then all of a sudden a new area of land would pop up and grow, and it spawned another game that I'm going to talk about in another episode, but another great SNES game. Nice.
See, there he goes.
Here's the artwork. I don't know if you could see it. It is awesome. It is really good.
Really good.
Yeah.
I think at good lighting.
Wolfman, do you have a full set? You have an SNES full set?
No, I don't. But I have a
You just
lot.
got those heavy hitters, I see.
Yeah.
Goodness.
It's like probably 300
Wow.
Super
Almost
Nintendo
half
games.
the library, probably all the well-known stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have heavy hitters and
You
got
have
some
the console,
rare
right?
stuff. Oh God, yeah. I've
Yeah.
consoles. I have a couple CIB sets just because it's my favorite
Yeah.
console.
As we get ready to wrap this up, something that's bittersweet, like seeing all these cartridges, because I have them too in the closet. But you know, seeing you guys hold these cartridges up and looking at the box artwork and all of that stuff, it's bittersweet that it seems like, I don't know, 10 years from now that or next 2 to 3 years, we're going to be going to like a somewhat all digital type. So kids that are growing up, they'll never know the feeling of opening up one of those games and looking through a colorful instruction manual and just reading all that good stuff. You don't get, even if you buy a PS5 game now, you don't get, unless you get like a special edition or something, you don't get those manuals that you used to get back in the 90s.
Oh,
Man.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about that in a law episode or preservation episode. Because that's going to be a problem. Like that's going to be a major problem for like because we've already run into that, and I don't want to go back into it too deep. But DT, when you look at like games that aren't out there anymore, perfect example, Overwatch. I liked the first Overwatch, but it's gone. Like you can't, even if you have the physical copy of Overwatch, you can maybe put it in and not update it, and it might work in its original version. But you try and touch it online, it's going to want to update to Overwatch 2. So that's the thing that's really really weird about like because it's gone. Like they got rid of Overwatch 1 and replaced it with Overwatch 2. And there's a lot of games like when they're closing the eShops for Nintendo, you know, like the Wii and all that kind of stuff, and then the DS. All those games that were just digital, they're gone. So you purchase these things, but yet you don't have a physical copy of it. What's going to happen when I want my girls or my grandkids to play something and it's no longer available anywhere? Like
That's the bitter part about it. But
yeah.
the sweet part about it is I'm not Jeff Bezos' little cousin. I don't have that much space to house.
Yeah.
I don't have that much space to put the entire SNES collection, the entire PS4 collection, entire PS3, PS2 collection. So that's where emulation in the digital, that's when it steps in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing they would be great if you can somehow have a digital, like back when PlayStation had PlayStation Home,
Mm-hmm.
and you can visit your room. It would be great if you can have like a home or something like that digitally, and you can have all of your games lined up digitally. I think that something like that would be cool. Still, it doesn't beat the physical at all. But
it's the thing
that's
that
the
gets
kind of
me,
sweetness about it.
the thing that gets me is the licensing. Like all of a sudden they'll be like, "Oh, licensing's up. It's gone." Like that game's just gone. And you're like, "Wait, but I bought the game." They're like, "No, you bought the license for this game for a certain amount of time, but now we've decided to change things." That's my fear because I've seen bits and pieces of that already, and I don't necessarily like it, but I do like the convenience of being able to buy something and just download it, right? Don't get me wrong, I like the convenience, but it also scares me. Again, it's a sweet and bitter. I agree with you 100%.
Mostly bitter.
For people like Wolf and I that we do collect all of this kind of stuff. You have some yourself too, D, of course. But for those of us that collect a lot of this stuff, and we've been collecting a lot of this stuff, now with newer consoles, it's like it's harder and harder to get this stuff. Like, and then Best Buy, like Best Buy and Walmart aren't going to be carrying physical media and stuff like that. That stuff scares me when they start just eliminating those things. But
yeah, it's just the way things are going in this day and time, and it's cool, but it's like, man, like just seeing Wolf have those games, seeing you hold those games. I'm sure Eric has some too, but seeing you guys hold those games up, and you know, we're all from the 80s, in the 80s, 90s. We grew up in that Super Nintendo. So to look back to see how things were and how that nostalgia it was and how it is, and just like to not have that nowadays, this is like, man, you got to hold on. Like I'm looking at the Nintendo Power back there, and I'm like, these kids, they have no idea, bro.
Nope.
They have no idea. Wow, what a time to be alive, though.
My kids.
So the way we normally finish out is we give it a system, a grading scale on collectability. That's normally how we do it. We grade it A through F, right? So, and the things we want to keep track of is affordability of the console and availability of the console, affordability and availability of the games and the peripherals, and how well those games hold up today. And these are our opinions. We're not putting anyone else down. This is not like a popularity thing or this guy's wrong, this guy's right. That's not how it is. This is us. We're just four dudes sitting down on a couch, just talking to each other. That's what this is about. So, Wolf, what are you thinking on the Super Nintendo side?
So I'm thinking about what you said as far as collectability, because the Super Nintendo, even a lot of the games that we held up, a lot of those heavy hitters are very expensive to get. You know, are there cheap games for the system? Of course. I mean, there's a lot of, like, every system has its crap games or shovelware, and you can get probably sports games for a couple bucks, but most of the games that we talked about are kind of expensive, like really expensive, especially the ones Eric was talking about. You start getting into the JRPGs and role-playing games. Chrono Trigger, Dan, you held up. That's like what, like a $200 or $300 cart, not even with the box and manual. So, I mean, you're starting to get expensive. So if you're taking that into consideration, I'd still give it an A+. How about that, mofos?
That's right.
I don't care that it's expensive. It is a timeless system. The games are amazing. I would say to people, it's an A+ system, but if you want to collect physical for it, you better like start, you know, saving your pennies.
You don't need both kidneys. It's fine.
Yeah, because it is expensive, and even you're not going to find a lot of this stuff at flea. I go to flea markets every week. One time I saw Chrono Trigger, the cart, at a flea market, which I got for $1. And I think it's still the same cart that I have one time. And I never, ever saw it again all those years. So could you find like Super Metroid cart at a flea? Maybe, but
it's going to be $120.
Yeah, it's going to be expensive, but I mean, as far as holding up, like you said, Dan, all the games hold up today. The graphics hold up, the sound holds up. It's an amazing system. It's like a top 3 system of all time for me. And the only minus that I could see is collectability if you want to collect physical. And I guess, you know, unless you want to go emulation route only, you know, to play the games, then that's cool too.
Yep,
that's how a lot of people might have to do it.
Yep. All right, Eric.
I'm gonna have to say I agree with Wolf, where SNES is unique in that the games still hold up today. You can go back and you can play those games and you're not looking at the graphics going, man, this is bad. This is not how I remember it.
Atari. Atari.
Right.
Yep.
But SNES, like, I can walk through the store and there can be a graphic from a SNES game like Super Metroid on anything. Something I don't need, a coffee mug, something. And I will always take a second look at it and be like, I think I want that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it has some artwork from SNES on it or something. And it could be, you know, it would be dumb stuff, you know, this is Mario lotion. And I would be like, oh, dude, I think I need that.
Yeah.
And
well, you definitely need it.
Right. Yeah. But no, it's that you know, that's something that no other system has that kind of hold over me, you know. But for collectability, I will say, you know, being somebody that's just recently started collecting some retro stuff, and going to some stores, checking out garage sales and stuff like that, the stuff that you're gonna find, if you find anything, is there's gonna be a lot of sports games. And then, you know, the heavy hitters you're going to look at and you're going to be like, you know, that's $500 for a, you know, a Chrono Trigger inbox, or that's, you know, something crazy. You know, Final Fantasy 3 inbox with manual and map, and, you know, $500-$600, you know.
I think I saw $1,100 just recently on it.
Yeah. You know, sometimes you may come up on like an estate sale or something where someone doesn't quite know what they have. But so for that, I'm gonna have to say collectability, it's rough. If you got the money, yeah, by all means go for it. If you can find a console that's not yellow, or you know how to get that yellow out of that console, then, you know, that's great too. I think I beat the crap out of my original Super Nintendo, and it always worked. So I mean, that was a tough system. So for collectability, I would have to say, you know, I have to knock it a little bit just because it's expensive as hell, but you're not going to regret collecting for it. Not once will you regret collecting for that game or for that system.
So what do you think grade wise? What are you giving it?
I have to say I'll say A minus. I'll say A minus. Yeah.
All right.
Just because of the price. That's the only thing. Yeah.
All right, DT.
All right. I'm gonna give it an A plus. Reason I say that, Super Nintendo holds a dear place in my heart. One of my first like next gen consoles at the time, and the graphics hold up to this day. You can go back and have a blast playing those games. As far as like collectability, you can get a Super Nintendo that's in mint condition. You can get the controllers. You can find some peripherals as well. The only time you're going to run into an issue when it comes to the Super Nintendo collecting is when it comes to those heavy hitters. When you're talking Final Fantasy, Super Metroid, Zelda, when you're looking at those games in the box, yes, you're going to have to spend some money. But with me, you know, even if I couldn't find a regular size SNES, I would just rock with the SNES Mini. I'm cool. I have an SNES Mini.
I got 2 of those.
That has a thumb drive that you can connect to it, and it has every Super Nintendo game on there. So in my mind, I'm literally living my, because I couldn't afford all of those games back then. We couldn't afford all those games. So to be able to have a SNES Mini and to have every Super Nintendo game that has ever been made on that console, literally in the palm of my hand, physically, and actually using a Super Nintendo controller, that's good enough for me. And like Wolf mentioned, you know, in like Eric said, if you got the money and you're a collector and you want all that stuff on your wall, have at it. You know, spend that money and get that. But a lot of people would just have to go the emulation route or the SNES Mini route and do it like that. But for me, I give it an A plus. I mean, because it is, in my book, I think that the Super Nintendo is probably one of the best Nintendo consoles they have ever made. And I say that because they had a killer first party lineup. They had a major third party support, you know, and it was great graphically. And it was a strong console. Like when I look at the Switch, I'm like, it's cool that the Switch can play Doom and The Witcher 3, but look how bad it looks graphically. Right, but look how bad it looks graphically. But then when you look at the Super Nintendo, it played a plethora of games, including the first party, beautifully.
Yep.
So it gets an A plus in my book. I'm passing it on because I'll keep on talking for 30 more minutes.
I love the Super Nintendo. I agree with you. To me, it's a second Nintendo console for me. Number one is going to be GameCube. I've already mentioned that before. But the Super Nintendo is a close second on that. So
I'll give you that.
I'll give you that. Right. So here's the thing, and Eric kind of touched on it really quick too. This is one of the reasons why I love the Super Nintendo, and why I think that collecting for it is actually a good idea. This is a cartridge-based system. I'm gonna show this for Arcade Adam. This is that Star Trek: The Next Generation, baby. So this is why. To break this or scratch the disc or anything, like Eric mentioned, dude, this could fall off of out of a second story window, and majority of the time it will still work again. So when you're talking about collecting for a system that is going to be around for a long time, You don't have to worry about disk rot. You don't have to worry about something else breaking. It's very simple. Just like today, right? You get a new dishwasher, a new washing machine, or a new refrigerator. So many bells and whistles, stuff breaks. It doesn't last as much. There's more things to happen to it. This is still in that wheelhouse of that. It's a brick house, right? Because it is not no frills. It's very it's built very well. The cartridges are built well, and it's just one of those things. So that's the main reason why I'm going to give it an A for collectability and for just the variety of games that they have, right? So an A, they have tons and tons of variety of games. You got racing games, you got fighting games, you got RPGs, you got platformers, you got all these different types of games that, again, everybody else talked about. They still hold up today. The graphics are great. The sound is great. The system is very simplistic but fun. It doesn't take up a ton of space. Like DT, how many PS5s is this? Like, how many of these make a PS5? What, 4?
Like 3 or 4.
4 of them. But not to say, not knocking the PS5, but that being said, the system itself, just so you guys know, because I pay attention to this stuff. I have 2 Super Nintendos myself. You can get, like DT said, you can get a nice, in good shape Super Nintendo, not in box, but with all the original cords and 2 controllers. You can usually get it for around $100. So that's not too bad. 120 maybe. So not super bad for a system that's going to last for a long time. There's hardly anything that's going to break on it. Yes, the heavy hitters are going to be expensive. Everybody's touched on that. But there's a lot of games that you can play for a long freaking time. And some of the heavy hitters are not as expensive, right? So, for instance, I already talked about it. ActRaiser is not super expensive. Super Mario World, not super expensive. But that, even like what Wolf touched on with the Super Mario All-Stars. How cool is that to be able to play Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario Bros. 2, original Super Mario Bros. On the Super Nintendo? It was like backwards compatibility super, right? So there's all these things that, and those aren't going to be expensive. There's going to be a few of the supply and demand, lesser printed games that are going to be expensive. They just are. Also, you need to be careful if you are collecting for it. There are a lot of counterfeit games. So you need to be careful for that stuff too. If you're looking for actual, like, legit, authentic stuff, there's YouTube videos out there how you can actually look at them. You can get a Torx bit, and you can actually look at the inside the cartridge to see what the actual circuit board looks like, so you'll know if it's real or not. So you can jump down that rabbit hole too. But the system itself, great system. It is easy to collect for. You can find them all over the place still. Might not find all the games, but the system itself, and then some of the more well-known games, you're going to find not really having a problem. You see Super Mario World and Super Mario All-Stars all over the place. So that's just an example. But yeah, for me, A. So we're pretty much telling you A. So if you're going to start collecting for a system, this might be the one. This might be it. Like, if you're going to bite the bullet, you can do what D said. You can get the mini. You got emulation. But if you're going to start collecting for an actual console, I would put this one up there, because this is the pinnacle of, I think, cart-based consoles. So outside of, people put Neo Geo up there, and again, I love Neo Geo, and people say that's the pinnacle. No, it's out of the realm of most people's. It's not tangible. A Neo Geo and what it costs and the games, it's just not a tangible thing that you're going to be able to. It's not cost effective at all. The Super Nintendo is still somewhat cost effective. You can get the hardware, and then you can bit and piece your collection over time. So yeah, it's a great system. So anybody else have anything that they want to talk about before we snip this bad boy before episode 2?
Yep, we haven't scratched the surface. Like, not at all. No. I mean, we talked about what, 15 games, maybe 20 games at the most today, and we didn't even talk about a beat 'em up. We didn't do a sports game. We didn't do a racing game. We didn't do a fighting game. There's so many games that are still, we haven't done a puzzle game. There are just, I don't know. I feel like we could do 4 more episodes.
I was thinking 30.
Yeah. we could do. We haven't even gone into really the peripherals. I mean, we can go down, like, these specific games work for this peripheral, and this was a fun one for a 2-player, and this was a good single player. Dude, there's so many games that are great on this system.
Yeah. So it's just stay tuned. That's all we're going to say.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about. So real quick, I want to give some shout outs. So to our friend D Thomas, who has a very popular YouTube channel. So please look him up. D Thomas from MC. He does lots of gaming videos and like cool stuff. And you know, I'm a big fan, you know, as you know, always thumbs up, comment, like always looking for your next thing. You know, I'm really enjoy what you do, but more importantly, I like the person. You know, I got to know Derek as a person and consider him a good friend. So if you're watching this show, you know, give him a like, give him a subscribe. You won't go wrong. 22 other thousand people, you know, have not gone wrong. So follow him and our friend Eric O over there, who also has a very successful YouTube channel. Problem Solved with Eric.
Marginally successful.
Come on,
Hey,
you're
dude.
shortchanging yourself.
Yeah.
You do a lot of cool things. You know,
I mean, dude grew a beard. He grew a full beard out. I don't know how he did it. So yeah,
yeah, right. Bearded Man Games. That's right.
Yeah.
Shout out to our boy Eli, and then of course Dantron 69K. I mean, you want to talk about hustling? This guy is. Every time I'm ready to go to sleep, my eyes are shutting, and I hear and I'm like, what the hell's that? And I get a Twitch live. Dan's on and he's doing something cool. He's hooking up the Neo Geo. He's hooking up Battle Battalion. He's doing that game I never saw in my life. It's what was that called? Like it's like you're like pushing each other. You're like jelly blobs and
yeah. What was that? Party Animals?
The Party Animals.
Oh,
yeah.
Party Animals.
Yeah.
So like I'm learning too, and
All
you
kinds
know
of stuff.
I'm a big fan of all three of these guys. So I guess the point of what I'm saying is give them a like, give them a subscribe, and then of course I have nothing, so you don't have to worry about me.
You got more than nothing, buddy.
I'm just a gamer. I'm just a gamer, and I'm a big supporter, and you know, and I enjoy doing this show because we get to talk about the thing I love the most, which is video games.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I want to say thank you to everybody. Of course, Wolf, for traveling down this journey with me all the time. I appreciate you, your wealth of knowledge, your friendship. As always, it's great to just hang out with you anytime I get a chance. Eric, Problem Solved with Eric, like Wolf had already talked about. He does all kinds of cool stuff. He might be a little bit weird when it comes to mechanical keyboards, but look past that. He might have a little fetish when it comes to that stuff, but it's awesome. Yeah. You start paying attention to that stuff. It's like, I never even knew I needed one of these keyboards, and then you're going to like a keyboard. Yeah. He's going to get you and sell you on something there. But he does lots of stuff, Problem Solved with Eric. Same thing with my boy D. Thomas from NC. He's always unboxing videos. He's reviewing products. Very honest, ethical reviews that he does. And like Wolf said, the person that he is I don't like to say a selling point, but the person that he is, the man that he is, that's the part that people gravitate towards. And his content is great, but it's content delivered with his personality. And so I want to say thank you to you also for coming and hanging out with us. Hopefully we'll get to do it again sometime.
Most definitely, man. It's been an honor for you guys to invite me on, and I'm sure this will not be our last time talking because I have so many things more that I want to talk about. So, yeah, thanks for having me, Wolfman, Dantron, and Eric. It's been great chatting with you guys. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one, man.
Yeah. Give us a shout out on your channel. You know, so because we only have like 8 people that watch us.
Yeah, we got all 6 people that watch this video.
All of a sudden we'll get maybe we'll get 50 people.
It's all good.
I got you.
It's all good. All right, you guys. Well, this was a lot of fun. And until next time, later.
Peace.
Peace.